Hey everybody, Rock DIY here. I've got a 1997 Toyota Century V12 that I'm going to be replacing the airbag suspension on it with coilovers. This is one of the original airbags on the rear. I've already done one side. There are some pretty good videos about removing everything in order to get to the top of our airbag suspension. Those videos always completely remove everything, and I don't see any point behind that. What I did do is remove most of the top bolts and nuts in order to get this out. Also had to remove the rear curtain in order to slide the rear shelf down. One thing to note when you do this is that you won't be able to take the rear shelf out completely unless you take the seat belts off, because it's got to pass through here. So you can keep this in place while you do this job. There's no reason to remove everything. And the problem with removing everything and disconnecting everything is, depending on the age of the car, you could break quite a few things. In fact, when I did the driver's side rear, things were already broken from previous work had been done on the vehicle, and then there were a couple things that broke while I was trying to get to the point of replacing the air suspension. On this, what I'm going to do is leave all the airbag suspension components in place. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I do highly recommend that while this is still on the car, that you use some penetrating oil well in advance. Spray it on there pretty good, and then by the time you get to actually taking that bolt and nut off, it'll probably come off a whole lot easier. This bolt right there. First thing I'll start with is removing the 3 nuts here on the top of the shock tower. I've got the 3 14mm nuts off. Now you just need to take this cap off. Once you take the cap off, then you're going to have to disconnect the wiring from the top. For this connector, if you have a flat tip screwdriver, if you just put it in the top, turn, it'll take it right off. You're supposed to be able to push this down and pull it out, but I did that on the other side and it did not want to come off. All right, now what you're going to need is a 14mm long socket in order to get these other 3 nuts off that hold the shock in place. If you want to make it easier on yourself while you're removing these 14mm nuts, what you can do is take your floor jack and put it underneath, and what that'll do is help take some of the weight tension off and keep it in place. Doesn't take much, and the other thing is, if you do leave the nuts on and you get on that, you get to where you take the last nut off, it could drop some. It's not going to drop very far, but it will drop. This will be difficult to see, but I have a 19mm wrench on the nut side, and then I have a 19mm socket for the other side. There's the nut right there. You can see it's pretty beat up, so it's been taken off before. So the nut's off. I'm going to take the tension off, and then I'm going to tap that bolt through. If it's tight, you don't want to hammer it, because if you mushroom the bolt, you'll be doing more work. There's the bolt with the washer on it. In most cases, this is where you would think the hard part is going to be getting the shock out, but it's not. Here's how you get it out. push it that towards the opposite side of the vehicle. Move it off to the side a little bit. Probably blocked video. There is an air line on here, right here. It needs to be removed. So you can leave it sitting right there. You can see that. There's an air line right there. The other side really didn't have any air pressure in it. It just basically hissed a little bit, and it'll probably do the same thing this time, but it's a good idea to have eye protection or have your eyes out of the way so that you don't get blasted. The wrench size here is a 14. I don't have eye protection on, so I'm keeping my eyes above and just going off feel. You may or may not hear a little air hiss soon. Okay, that one had nothing. Now, you just gotta manipulate it out. You may have to use a pry bar to get this to come down so that you can pull it out. That pry bar in here. And taking it out. So as you can see, not very difficult to get out.